Thanks, Neil. That was lovely. Good morning. My name is Wendy Watson, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here to worship at Parkminster. Whether you're here in the sanctuary with us, whether you're with us on Zoom or Facebook, whether you are here in KW somewhere or somewhere else entirely, thank you for being here and making this a community of faith. Let's continue this time of gathering with our responsive statement of welcome. Seeking true community and following the example of Jesus, all are welcome here. Welcome to people of all ages, colors, abilities, gender identities, and sexual orientations. May we recognize the spark of the divine in each of us.
There was a dream.
Lions and lambs together, nations at peace, weapons of war turned into tools of harvest.
This dream takes on flesh.
In you and me, guided by the Spirit, living the love of Jesus.
The dream has an enemy in fear.
So we gather in community to remember the victims of fear, to remember the dream, to find company with the dreamer.
To be people of the dream.
So we begin with the lighting of our Christ candles in this place and many other places. And so I'd like to invite our candlelighter, Naomi, to come forward at this time to help us light our candle.
The Christ candle in our sanctuary is wrapped symbolically from week to week in the diverse colors of human flesh. The presence of the divine in the human is true in Jesus the Christ and true in all peoples. The flames of our candles are a visible reminder of invisible grace, the light that Jesus brought into the world, the presence of the Holy One made real by our gathering in community, in vulnerability, in curiosity, and in surrender.
We continue our time gathering with gratitude and respect as we remember together that this land, this planet, is sacred. We are on holy ground. Earth is our only home, and we are connected with all who live here. In this autumn season, we give thanks for the golden bounty of the harvest. Even as the air cools, the leaves drift, and the nights lengthen. Plants die back into the soil, yet in letting go, they are seeding hope, with some seeds falling into the same soil, while others are carried to new places. We lament that we have not honored our deep relationship with the earth. The climate crisis is one result of our overconsumption and wastefulness. We commit to learning and practicing better stewardship. The Haudenosaunee, the Shinnecoin, and the Anishinaabe have cared for and shared this land for millennia. Generations ago, they welcomed newcomers who entered into treaties with them. We lament that treaties have been broken. We all live with this. We seek to live in relationship with all Indigenous peoples with whom we share the land. We ask ourselves, what seeds are waiting to be nurtured?
Thank you, Wendy. We stay in this time of gathering as we share some announcements about the life and work that we do together in this place and beyond. If you're here in the sanctuary and have an announcement you would like to share this morning, I invite you to come forward to the lectern, and you'll be able to do that in just a moment. If you're on Zoom with us this morning and have something you'd like to share, just type it into the chat and I will share that for you in just a moment. We do want to offer our thanks to the Inclusive Ministries Committee. Last night they hosted one of their Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ potlucks, and those who were able to attend last night got some really great info from the Hospice of Waterloo Region. So we thank them and all who do this work and for that evening. I cannot believe there's no other. Oh, Elna, not letting me down. I was going to be worried if I didn't have an announcement. I will turn it over to you.
My announcement today is not really church related, except that it's from the Omasaskona, which is Omasaskona KW part, and we raise funds for the Stephen Lewis Foundation, and that is to help the grandparents, mostly grandmothers, in sub-Saharan Africa who've been left to raise their grandchildren because of the parents who died of HIV/AIDS pandemic. And even though there's good treatment for that and it's being subdued in many areas, it's definitely not over. The thing I admire most about the Stephen Lewis Foundation is that they don't just throw money at it and go away. They have people on the grounds in South Africa. They help them to start industries and things so that they can raise their grandchildren and make it a better place for them. And each year we raise funds. In fact, we just celebrated our 15th anniversary in June, and we had raised $950,000 by then. We're hoping that this year we might coax it over to $1 million, but we don't know for sure. Anyway, this is our big fundraiser, and we have it in the fall, and it will be at Parkminster again this year. And the quilt up here has been contributed to by grandmothers groups all across Canada, and it's touring, and it will be in Waterloo for a few days, but we will have it this coming Sunday, in the church for display. And we'll also have baking and preserves, a special kids shop that's new this year. And there will be face painting and things to do in there. There'll be a tea room, of course, and a market for baking, and a beautiful array of gift baskets. And I was at the home of the woman who keeps all this for us and making gift baskets for several days. And I tell you, they're beautiful. So it's next Sunday from 1:30 to 4:30 at Parkminster. And if you can come, we would be glad to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Elna. And a couple other words of thanks. We want to thank the Membership and Pastoral Care Committee, who hosted another Mix and Mingle event this past week, and it was a lovely afternoon for folks to gather, so we give thanks for that. And again, our thanks to the Stewardship Committee for their luncheon last week and for all the work that they've been doing. And so again, to all of you for all the ways that you share your time, talents, and treasure here in this place and beyond. So thank you. I'm not seeing any announcements on Zoom and seeing no more here in the sanctuary. I invite you to turn to the Red Voices United hymnal. The words will also appear for you on the screen. We'll be singing together hymn number 684. Please be seated. Friends, as we enter into this time of confession, I invite you, if it helps you to pray, to have your arms at your side with your palms up in an act of surrender and invitation to God's presence in your life. The invitation in confession is to look at our lives with a sense of compassionate curiosity, not to judge ourselves, not to place labels on our actions, but simply to make ourselves aware of the fullness of our humanity, the parts we celebrate and those we would prefer to be kept hidden. In so doing, we surrender all of it to God, to the sacred core in each and every one of us, a place of acceptance, of healing, of wisdom, of resurrection. May these words sink into our hearts and help us to reflect on our lives.
Holy One, violence and hatred so often overwhelm our world. And so we hold before you the violence that is done in your name, out of a misguided notion that right belief is more important than right relationship. We hold before you those maimed by war or scarred by hatred, those traumatized by nightmares which years of peace cannot erase, those crippled in spirit as well as in body, those who cannot or will not forgive. We hold before you the tyrants of our age who wreak havoc with the minds and bodies of the young and force them to commit horrendous crimes. We hold before you a world broken by despair, where false prophets voice not words of peace, but chant a mantra of revenge. We hold before you our own complicity with the evils of our age. Today we remember and repent as we acknowledge that even in our own lives, hatred sometimes obscures love, and violence sometimes overcomes peace. We confess that we are overwhelmed by the challenges of peace in our world and often decide to do nothing.
And so, in a time of silence, I invite us to reflect on our own lives, with each confession not a condemnation, but a series of stones on a path upon which grace will travel into our vulnerable hearts. On this day, there are many people that may come to mind for each of us. Certainly those who have fought and died, but also others who have been affected by war, regardless of if they were military or civilian, regardless of nationality. And I invite you as you wish to either type their names in the Zoom chat, or if you're here, raise your hand and Joe will come with the microphone.
Maud and Art Saunders and their children.
My father, Captain Frank Kerbel, who died in 1967 in Vietnam, and my stepfather, George W. Cullen, who served for the Royal Canadian Air Force in England during World War II.
I'd remember my father-in-law, Miles Jewett. I'd also remember two great uncles who fought in the First World War, who lost their lives at Ypres, which was Harry Dixon and Walter Dixon. I'd also remember my other great uncle, Fred Jordan, who lost his life on the aircraft carrier, the HMS Hermes. And I'd also remember my parents, but especially my mother, Doris Dixon, who survived the London Blitz.
A remembrance of my father, known around here as Chuck or Charlie Spall, Sergeant Navigator on the big bombers in the Second World War, and fortunately returned to us. I was born at the very end of the war and returned to us in one piece.
Remembering my dad,
remembering my father, Henry Stevens, who served in the Second World War.
My father, Nick Holman, who served in the Second World War in the Netherlands.
Give thanks for the opportunity to remember my first cousin, Alan Van Friedenberg, who stepped on a mine in Vietnam.
Thinking of Siham and Kyria and their many relatives who had to flee war in Syria, and the millions more.
Thinking of all the children in Gaza who have been lost and who will be lost over the coming weeks.
My grandfather, Thomas Alexander Murray, who fought at Vimy Ridge in the First World War.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Friends, as we move into a solemn time of remembrance and silence, you are invited to stand as you wish and as you are able.
Friends, as people of faith, let us be roused from our slumber of violence and war with the vision of the prophets. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. This is the holy vision of right relationship. It is ours for the taking. Take hold of this grace. Be grateful and live in freedom. Amen. At this time, I'd like to invite children and Reverend Heather to head downstairs for their Sunday activities together. And for those of us remaining in the sanctuary, let's join in singing hymn number 149 in your spiral-bound More Voices, Peace for the Children, verses 1 to 5. Please remain standing as you are able. Please be seated. Friends, as we approach a story from our faith tradition in the witness of the early church and listen for the word of God within it, let's prepare ourselves with prayer. Would you join me? Holy One, may we surrender our stories into your story, that we may know the peace of abiding in your love. Amen.
The reading from our faith tradition this morning comes from the stories of the early church as found in the book of Acts, chapter 10, verses 1 to 28, and I am reading from the Inclusive Bible. There was a centurion named Cornelius in the Italian cohort stationed in Caesarea. The household of Cornelius was full of God-fearing people. They prayed to God constantly and gave many charitable gifts to needy Jewish people. One day, at about 3 p.m, Cornelius had a vision. He distinctly saw an angel of God enter the house and call out, "Cornelius!" Cornelius stared at the angel, completely terrified, and replied, "I'm at your service." The angel said, "Your prayers and offerings to the poor are pleasing to God. Send a deputation to Joppa and ask for a person named Simon, who is called Peter. He is staying with a tanner also named Simon, whose house is by the sea." After the angel had departed, Cornelius called together 3 members of the household, explained everything, and sent them off to Joppa. About noon the next day, shortly before they were to arrive in Joppa, Peter went up to the roof terrace to pray. He was hungry, and he asked for something to eat. While the meal was being prepared, he fell into a trance. Peter saw heaven standing open and something like a large sheet being lowered to earth by its 4 corners. It contained all kinds of animals, birds, and reptiles. A voice said, "Stand up, Peter. Make your sacrifice and eat." But Peter said, "I can't, my God. I have never eaten anything profane or unclean." The voice spoke a second time and said, "Don't call anything profane that God has made clean." This happened 3 times. Then the sheet disappeared into the heavens. Peter was still pondering the vision when Cornelius' deputation arrived. They had asked directions to Simon's house and were now standing at the door. They called out to ask if Simon, known as Peter, was there. While Peter reflected on the vision, the Spirit said, "A deputation is here to see you. Hurry down and don't hesitate to go with them. I sent them here." He went down and said to the deputation, "I'm the one you are looking for. What do you want?" They answered, "Cornelius, a centurion, an upright and God-fearing person, respected by the Jewish people, was directed by a holy angel to send for you. We are to bring you to the household of Cornelius to hear what you have to say." Peter invited them in and gave them hospitality. Peter left the next day, accompanied by some of the co-workers from Joppa. They reached Caesarea the day after. Cornelius was waiting for them, along with his household and many close friends. As Peter entered the house, Cornelius met him, dropped to his knees, and bowed low. As he helped Cornelius to his feet, Peter said, "Get up. I'm a human being just like you. While talking with Cornelius, Peter went in and found many people gathered there. He said to them, "You know, it's unlawful for a Jew to associate with Gentiles or visit them. But God made it clear to me not to call anyone unclean or impure." May the Spirit of truth work in these words that we might be set free. May it be so.
Time full of war, be peace. In a time full of doubt, just believe. Yeah, there ain't that much difference between you and me. In a time full of war, be peace. In a world full of hate, be alive. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Don't hide in the dark, you were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be a light. La 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 la. In a place that needs change, make a difference. In a time full of noise, just listen. 'Cause life is but a breeze, you better live it. In a place that needs change, make a difference. In a world of hate, be a light. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Oh, don't hide in the dark, you were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be a light. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. In a race you can't win, slow it down. Yeah, you only get one go round. 'Cause the finish line is 6 feet in the ground. In a race you can't win, just slow it down. In a world of hate, be alive. When you do somebody wrong, make it right. Oh, don't hide in the dark, you were born to shine. In a world full of hate, be alive. It's hard to live in color when you just see black and white. In a world full of hate, be alive.
Thank you. There's this joke, admittedly, it's kind of a dad joke, that the golden rule of social media is to tweet others the way you want to be tweeted. Popular or viral social media posts at the best of times fall far below the golden rule standard. But lately, in the face of attacks by Hamas in Israel and the retaliation by Israel in Gaza, things are even worse. These viral voices cause me to despair. My hope comes in the voices that I go looking for, the voices that aren't friendly to the algorithms that increase the profits of some, voices that aren't designed to get clicks, likes, and shares in the outrage machine that is much of social media, but rather voices that take the pain of the moment and seek to transcend it by offering their own vulnerability, by extending compassion, and by offering a way that might hold some sense of possibility. One such voice that I found is that of Rabbi Elisa Wise of Philadelphia in the US, who says, it's critical for American Jews to stand up and say, never again is never again for anyone. That if we're going to learn anything from history, it's that the things we stand for are for everybody, no exceptions, and that includes Palestinians. Another such voice is that of Dr. Izzeldin Aibulash, a Palestinian by birth, currently in Toronto. It's in 2009 that he loses a few members of his family in an airstrike in Gaza. Last week, he writes, I'm profoundly saddened and extend my deepest condolences to both Palestinians and Israelis who have lost loved ones, because I know the meaning of loss. My daughters, Besan, Mayar, Aya, and my niece, Noor, were all tragically killed. We must heal our wounds and find peace within ourselves and then between us. The cycle of violence does not bring us security and peace. It kills hope and life. Each of us retreats to our corners, justifying our perspectives while consumed by anger, anxiety, and suffering. Now, both Rabbi Wise and Dr. Abulash, American Jew and Palestinian Canadian Muslim, embrace their identities. They are proud of who they are, ethnically and religiously. But to them, at least it seems to me, these identities are not walls needing a defense against outsiders, but rather they hold their identities as part of a larger, more expansive human identity. And their stories prompt us, I think, to ask, how do we move into an identity that embraces and encompasses the wisdom that we all belong to each other? Now, for Peter, it happens because of a dream, a disturbing dream for a first-century Jew and for many Jews today. And to understand its profound nature and the nature of the revelation that it unleashes, we need to know a little something about Judaism and those first Jesus followers. For many Jews, dietary restrictions are an important part of what it means to be Jewish. Referred to as kashrut, dietary laws are a spiritual discipline that root Judaism in the concrete choices and details of daily life, so that consuming a meal is not just about nourishing the body, it's also about connection with sacredness in everyday life. As well, and this seems obvious to say, but we seem to need reminding, Jesus is a Jew, circumcised at birth, follows the dietary laws, keeps Passover and other observances, as are his first followers. And so we get this dilemma for Peter and for the early church. Because following the way of Jesus is a straightforward religious affair when all the followers are Jewish. But what do you do when non-Jews, Gentiles like Cornelius, want to become Jesus followers? Do you insist that they become Jews as well and keep to Jewish observances and laws? It's a tough enough question for Peter, but then there's this dream. Peter's famished and tired, and it's exhaustion that eventually wins out. And even as a meal is being prepared, he falls into a trance. I think of it as that middle state between sleep and wakefulness. And perhaps it's the smell of food intermingling with this dilemma about the Gentiles that spurs it. And I'm wondering if this has happened to you. It certainly happened to me, that there's two things going on in your life, and somehow they converge into one single strange dream. And the dream presents Peter with a vision of all the foods that he, as a Jew, is not to eat. With the baffling heavenly instructions, "Get up, Peter, and eat. What God has made clean, you must not call profane." 3 times this happens, and 3 times, even though hungry, Peter refuses. And this is no small matter for Peter and for Jews in the first century. They are a minority population clinging to their identity under Roman occupation. Yet here is this vision challenging Peter and the Jewish followers of Jesus to go deeper into their identities. And I think it's a compelling story for us on this Remembrance Sunday. So much of violence and war comes from narrow identities, failing to see what we share, failing to see the sacred in the other, calling what God has created profane. A few years ago, I come across a shocking example of this. It's a revealing comment by the Russian General Maslov during World War I. Maslov describes German children crying as they search desperately for their parents amidst war ruins. What was surprising, Maslov writes, was that they were crying in exactly the way that our children cry. After Nazi propaganda that dehumanizes the Russians, referring to them as Untermenschen, inferior people, Russian revenge propaganda convinces the Russians that all Germans are heartless beasts. And the general cannot fathom that the other side's children are anything like his own. But then again, this story doesn't have the same shock value as even a decade ago. We have Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu characterizing the current war as a battle between the children of the light and the children of darkness, between the forces of humanity and the forces of animalism. Ghazi Hamad, a senior Hamas official, says that the attacks like the one a few weeks back will continue until the country of Israel is annihilated. And I can't help but think, what God has made clean, let no one call profane. And of course, we're not immune to this phenomenon in Canada. In the cause of defending a narrow Canadian identity, historically and oftentimes currently, we label and treat Indigenous people, Japanese, Black, Italian, Muslim, 2S LGBTQ plus Canadians, Jews, as the other, profane, blemishes on the purity of the white, straight, Christian, Canadian ideal. And the reaction to this kind of oppression can also close us in our identities, unless we're intentional about not letting it happen. People who feel under siege coalesce around their identity in a bid for empowerment, support, and to mobilize for change. It's an understandable reaction to political, religious, and cultural imperialism when one group of people tries to dominate another, just as the Romans did to the Jewish people. But the focus on difference, while needed, only takes us part of the way on the road to healing. At the heart of Scripture this morning is a deeper message. Our differences contribute a piece to the truth, but none of us encompasses the whole of it. That's the deeper truth that lies beyond all our differences. Remembrance Sunday's value doesn't lie in just honoring sacrifice. It's also about calling into question the paths that lead to war. Remembering calls us to live beyond our small, narrow identities and open ourselves up to a larger shared identity. And this week, as I'm pondering the Scripture and I'm wondering about Peter's dream, I'm trying to come up with something comparable in our time, something that's also prompting us to a larger identity. And what comes to me is that first image of our home, the earth, taken from the moon. That paradigm-altering image places us all our differences, all our history, all our creations on a singular sphere floating in space. But now we have images of our galaxy, the Milky Way, in which we're a far-flung outpost, a tiny dot among billions of tiny dots. And our galaxy itself is one among billions. Our differences seem so trivial compared to what unites us. Our need to pull together becomes so obvious in the face of such fragility and vulnerability. The vision is there, God's new dream, calling us to a deeper, more enduring identity, in which our differences are part of a larger truth, a deeper reality, a profound wholeness, in which we are a part of something expansive and beautiful. This is also worth remembering on this day. What God has made clean, we shall not call profane. We shall accept as gift and grace. That's God's dream for us. May we listen to the voices who proclaim this hope. Amen. Please be seated. Friends, all that we are, all that we have comes from God. In humility and gratitude for this grace, we return a small portion for the restoration of creation. Let us bring our gifts before God. Holy love, we give thanks for these gifts and for the givers. Today we remember generations past who have sacrificed and suffered that we might be here. Today we remember all who continue to live in the midst of violence. May these gifts and our lives stand for peace and justice in our world, that our memories might be for joy. May they be blessed to this purpose. Amen. Please be seated. And so, friends, let's come together in prayer to reflect on and share the yearnings, the struggles, and the joys of our lives. If you have a prayer of blessing or concern that you'd like to share, just raise your hand, and Wendy will go out to you with the microphone. And if you're with us on Zoom, just type your blessing or concern in the chat, and I will read it out. I have a few things to share with you. Of course, many of you are aware that the Reverend Meg Grieve, who served here at Parkminster for about 3 years, passed away last Sunday, fondly remembered by many here at Parkminster, and Parkminster had a special place in Meg's heart as well. And so the service is going to be here at Parkminster on Thursday, November the 23rd at 11 a.m. And so we hold all who knew and loved Meg in our prayers this day. Want to let you know that Henry Thiessen's sister Jenny passed away yesterday. Henry was able to be there the day before and is very grateful for that. And so we hold Henry and the family in our prayers this day as well. Also, Francine Ross wanted to let us know that her mom had a fall. I think we had talked about that last week, but her mom Doreen remains in hospital, and so continued prayers are asked for. Do you have any blessings or concerns that you'd like to share this day?
I'd like to ask for blessings and prayers of strength for my friend Helen, who lost her mother on Wednesday morning.
Thank you, Sandy. Anyone else? Blessings or concerns to share this day?
Yes, as you may know, Bruce is not here today. Probably looking after Miriam. She's suffering quite a bit now. She's having lots of problems now. We have a nurse living with us, and she's there caring for her now. And also, I'd like to share my friend Bridget. She's still in the hospital. She's had the second stroke. I'm going to go see her today, and I'd just like some prayers out for her, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hans. Anyone else? Not seeing any on Zoom. Oh, there we go. Lee? Oh, John.
Asking for prayers for a friend of mine, my close friend and classmate and teammate, was put into palliative care this morning. Just received notice.
Thank you, John. We will. Wendy, I think you can come up. I'm not seeing any other prayers of blessing or concern. So friends, let's take these prayers, those that we've shared and those that we hold in our hearts, into our formal time of prayer and reflection. Holy One, help us to honor the memory of those who have died with the resolve to seek justice and resist evil. Grant us your presence and strength to stand firm in opposition to the subjugation and degradation of all peoples. Grant us faith to seek the limits of nonviolence and standing for your vision of peace. Grant us empathy and solidarity to walk with others who need strength. Grant us courage to protest, to speak out, to give sacrificially on behalf of others, to speak unpopular truths, to protect unpopular victims. Grant us resolve to not let the desire for peace hinder the requirement of justice, and wisdom to not let the zeal for justice override the call for peace. Holy One, in a time of silence and reflection, gathered as your community, we recall our very personal prayers of blessing and concern and surrender them into your love and care. God who holds all that has been, is, and will be in a never-ending embrace of love, help us to stay firm in your care, that we might put your will at the center of all our efforts. Steadfast in the faith that holds us close, let us join together in the prayer given to us by Jesus. Friends, God is beyond human understanding and our attempts at naming and definition. As we let go of our prayers and seek God as the answer to all our yearnings, you are invited to choose how you address the holy in the prayer that Jesus gave us. Holy Mystery, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, our closing hymn today is He Came Singing Love. It's number 359. In your red voices united, please rise as you are able.
Singing love,
Friends, the flames on our candles have been reminders of Jesus' presence in our worship. And as our worship comes to an end, we extinguish them. May the smoke that rises from the flame be a reminder that the Spirit goes with us into the week, leading us and calling us to deeper faith and joy. So now go from this place. Go with courage to live a life of peace in your treatment of yourself, in your interactions with others, knowing that the one God, the source of peace, the Prince of Peace, and the power of peace will be with you, spreading peace through your living. May it be so.